Tonight on CFTK-TV News, a special air quality warning is in effect. An educator is speaking out on AI plagiarism, and the U.S. says it hits 3 nuclear sites in the Middle East.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Monday, May 23rd, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. LNG Canada has announced a milestone for the project. An LNG spokesperson says the project has safely achieved its first production of liquefied natural gas and remains on track to load first cargoes by the middle of 2025. LNG Canada also notified the community of intermittent, significant flaring on the weekend. They say they acknowledge that the height and visibility of the flare, along with associated noise, light, and smoke, can be concerning for residents within the community. They say they remain committed to engaging with residents respectfully and transparently to address any questions or issues. They say LNG Canada continues to monitor its noise and air emissions in Kitimat, and the current flare rate is at the minimum required to safely support plant startup. They say flaring is a provincially regulated safety measure that ensures the controlled, efficient combustion of natural gas during specific operational phases, and that it is a critical part of safely operating a facility of this scale and is not expected to be routine during regular operations. A special air quality warning is in effect for parts of the Northwest and BC. The warning, which began Saturday and was extended in the area on Sunday, the province says is likely to be in effect over the next 24 to 48 hours. Smoke may be visible across the northeast and central regions of the province. They say that during a wildfire, smoke conditions can change quickly over short distances and can vary considerably hour by hour. The province recommends citizens monitor the situation for any wildfires near your area, follow any emergency announcements relevant to your location. The province also recommends people reduce activity levels if feeling unwell, monitor symptoms, drink fluids, and mild irritation is common, but if you're unsure whether you need medical care, call HealthLink BC at 811. Staying indoors with the windows closed can reduce smoke exposure. This Blue Sky Canada smoke forecasting system shows interactive forecasts of hourly, daily average, and daily maximum concentrations of smoke particles at ground level from wildfires, this being today's 24-hour forecast. The BC Wildfire Service says cool and rainy weather that has helped temper fire activity and is expected to continue this week, though drought conditions will persist in the northeast. It says that means that region remains dry and at risk for new fire starts. The service says isolated thunderstorms are forecast for the south and central interior. The update comes as the Cariboo Regional District lifted an evacuation alert that was issued last Wednesday for properties near a blaze about 220 kilometers west of Williams Lake. The Martin Lake wildfire is now under control, which the Wildfire Service credits to crew efforts and favorable weather. It says there are about 80 wildfires actively burning in BC, most of which are situated in the province's northeast corner and were caused by lightning. It says 41% are classified as out of control, 23% are being held, while 36% are deemed under control. 3 major blazes were downgraded in the northeast last week and are no longer wildfires of note, a status indicating a fire is highly visible or a threat to communities. The province now has no wildfires of note. Coming up next, the rise in AI plagiarism. An educator is speaking out after noticing a steep uptick in plagiarism after the introduction of AI to the world and is warning that the consequences for plagiarism are steep. Here's CTV's Emma Convey.
Ed McHugh is a business and marketing professor at 3 post-secondary schools in the Halifax area. Over the last few years, he's noticed a troubling trend: students using artificial intelligence softwares to cheat.
It's increasing. word has gotten out quite rapidly on this language, and so it's being leaned on by a number of students.
McHugh recently took to social media after he noticed a number of students used AI on a recent assignment.
As an educator, you always feel some sense of sadness, sometimes anger. Because you feel betrayed, and you also feel like they must think that you're not very bright to catch some of this stuff.
The software follows a certain format in its answers, so when it's copied, it's obvious.
But then after that, it gets really tricky. It comes down to your word versus the student's word.
Some students feel it enhances their learning, but others disagree.
When I use it, it's to get better understanding of what the questions are asking, so usually just re-put them in different words.
In the arts specifically, it does kind of hinder the programs because you are relying a lot on social views.
Rules vary from classroom to classroom. Each course has its own AI policy, but in general, cheating and plagiarizing are a no across the board.
On your first assignment, if you're caught and it's proven, you get 0 for the assignment. If you do it again in the course, you get 0 for the course.
This professor explains that AI can be a good thing if used appropriately, but students who rely on it entirely are simply getting an artificial education. Emma Convey, CTV News, Halifax.
And it's not just shaking up the education world. As many have feared, AI is making huge waves in the media industry. Here's CTV's John Venevali-Rao.
Indiana gonna win, baby! In an advertising first, this completely AI-generated commercial recently ran on American primetime TV. No one you see is real. Everything created in 2 days using text prompts. Until now, the ad would have required hiring a production crew, and it's an example of the kind of job disruption this Canadian AI pioneer worries about.
I think if you make lots and lots of people unemployed, even if they get universal basic income, they're not going to be happy.
University of Toronto professor Jeffrey Hinton is a Nobel Prize-winning computer scientist.
If I worked in a call center, I'd be terrified.
On a podcast this week, he said the tech he helped to develop could soon enable one person to do the work of 10, and fears job losses are already beginning to happen.
And I think for mundane intellectual labor, AI is just going to replace everybody.
This all comes as Amazon CEO recently told employees expanded use of AI will reduce its total corporate workforce in the next few years. Already, university graduates are having a tough time landing that first job, and AI adoption likely a contributing factor.
In technical fields like computer science, graduates are having a harder than usual time finding positions.
According to StatsCan, 3 out of 5 Canadian workers are employed in occupations with a high potential for exposure to AI. As for how smart chatbots are, a group gave them an IQ test for humans.
Last year at this time, the top model had an IQ of about 97. This year, it had an IQ of 137.
Hinton was asked what job he'd tell his own kids to get if they needed one.
Trained to be a plumber.
Really?
Yeah.
Something a machine can't do for now. John Venevali-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Turning to the weather, keep in mind of the air quality warning in effect. Check the province's Air Quality Health Index for more information. The sun rose at 4:56 a.m. this morning in the northwest and sets at 10:16 p.m. tonight. Tonight on the north coast, expect conditions to be cloudy with rain beginning this evening. Temperature steady near 12 degrees. Over the next few days on the north coast, expect rain with a chance of showers Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures in the 14 to 15 degree range. Overnight lows between 11 and 12 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expected to be cloudy this evening with a 60% chance of showers overnight. Winds from the south at 30 kilometers an hour, gusting to 50, becoming light near midnight, a low of 9 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect showers to continue throughout the week and temperatures to stay in the high teens. Overnight lows between 10 and 11 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it's looking partly cloudy with a 30% chance of showers this evening, a low of 9 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect a chance of showers tomorrow, then a mix of sun and clouds for the weekend into the weekend. Daily highs between 18 and 21 degrees, overnight lows between 7 and 8 degrees. Checking your northwest highways now. On Highway 16, there's construction in Prince Rupert with a detour in effect. There's bridge maintenance, mowing, utility work, and crack sealing going on. On Highway 37, watch for bridge construction, frost heaves, as well as a material spill. On Highway 37A, there's bridge maintenance as well as a section with falling rocks. On Highway 118, there's bridge maintenance, and on the Niska Highway, there's also bridge maintenance. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, the Prime Minister's visit to Brussels. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced new measures from Brussels, Belgium today. He says the future of trade includes defense deals like the one he's signed with Europe. He says Canada is looking to build its trading relations with like-minded, reliable partners. Carney was asked about the trade talks with the U.S. and responded he's focused on getting the right deal during the 30-day negotiating window. Here's CTV's Jeremy Sharon.
Prime Minister Mark Carney kicked off his first full day here in Belgium with a walkthrough this morning of a cemetery, a military cemetery in Antwerp, Belgium, where more than 300 Canadian soldiers were killed alongside Belgian fighters during the Second World War. That starts what will be a Canada-EU summit here in Brussels for the Prime Minister. He'll meet with leaders of the European Union, where the two sides will sign a new pact, a military and security pact, security and defense pact, that will allow both sides to work together in the future when it comes to procuring military equipment. The Prime Minister will then make his way to The Hague, Netherlands, where tomorrow he'll he'll attend the NATO summit, where leaders are expected to focus on a new pledge for military spending. The Prime Minister only earlier this month announced that Canada will invest $9 billion this year to reach the current NATO target of 2% of GDP on defense spending. That target is expected to increase at this year's meeting. Secretary General Mark Rutte has made it clear his goal is for the alliance to collectively agree to a new target of 3.5% military spending. That is expected to be a challenge for Canada, and a timeline has yet to be decided or agreed upon on how long that will take. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Brussels.
And as Prime Minister Carney is now on his second day in Brussels, talks continue with world leaders. CTV's Jeremy Sharon continues.
A morning visit to a military cemetery kick-started Prime Minister Mark Carney's first full day in Belgium. A ceremony to honor hundreds of fallen Canadian soldiers buried here after the First and Second World War. Ahead of this Canada-EU summit, a meeting between Carney and European leaders focused on joint security and defense.
Very, very warm welcome to this EU-Canada summit.
We look forward to moving to an ever closer partnership with the European Union.
Here, Carney signed a new security and defense pact with European Union leaders aimed at diversifying its trade and defense industrial partnerships, billed as a first step towards more defense procurement from Europe and an eventual plan to get Canada into the Rearm Europe military program.
It will help us deliver on our new requirements for capabilities more rapidly and more effectively. It will help build our industries, secure our jurisdictions.
But Carney's European trip has been dominated already by the escalating war in the Middle East. The Prime Minister spoke with President Trump overnight and says de-escalation was a focus of their conversation.
Where the state of Iran has been a sponsor of terrorism, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and beyond. And where at least in our opinion, Canada has listed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization, active terrorist organization. These are violations of international law.
Carney travels to The Hague in the morning for a highly anticipated NATO meeting where it's expected the conflict in the Middle East will dominate too. NATO's Secretary General was pressed on it today.
That is why NATO has said Iran should not, and this is a consistent position of NATO, Iran should not have its hands on a nuclear weapon. So, and I would not agree that this is against international law what the US did.
The Hague summit will also see the alliance look at a new baseline defense spending target of 5% of GDP. Canada only this month committed to meeting the current 2% target, a decade after the alliance agreed to it.
The United States says it obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities after hitting 3 nuclear sites in a coordinated attack last night, just days after the president said he would take 2 weeks to consider his actions. This morning, the American administration is watering down suggestions the attack could lead to a larger conflict, even as Iran says there is little room left for diplomacy. CTV's Colton Prale has more on the strike and what's next.
Strikes by U.S. forces on 3 key Iranian nuclear sites were a major military success, according to the White House. But the vice president says this does not mean the U.S. has entered into another Middle East war.
We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program.
Iran says the U.S. has crossed a very big red line and reserves all options to defend itself.
The door for diplomacy should be always keep open, but this is not the case right now.
Washington claims to have set back the Iranian nuclear program by years, using new bunker-busting bombs for the first time, hitting enrichment facilities in Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Experts argue it's too early to gauge that, as official damage assessments are still underway. But Iranian officials say uranium at these sites was already moved.
Obliterating all ability to extend their nuclear program is impossible. The whole tactic here is to buy time for something else to happen.
Meanwhile, fighting between Iran and Israel continues today, damaging homes in Tel Aviv and reportedly destroying missile depots in Iran. Israel is calling the U.S. strikes a turning point in the war. Tonight, Trump contradicting senior White House officials, saying he's open to a regime change in a Truth Social post.
This is a huge change in the Middle East. It was a decisive action. It was the right thing to do. I thought somebody should do it for a long time, but better late than never.
Canada is calling for a return to the negotiating table, as are France, Germany, and the UK.
We want to see a resolution to this issue. We want to see the negotiations resume, and we want to see peace.
Trump says he's prepared to talk and could launch more attacks if Iran won't take part.
That deal's going to be far less favorable to them now than it was 10 days ago.
While Iran considers military action, the country is also contemplating blocking the Strait of Hormuz. It connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, and 20% of the world's oil and gas flows through it.
Turning to the markets now. The Canadian dollar dropped 1/10 cent. The price of gold rose $9.30. Oil dropped $5.33. Natural gas dropped 17 cents. Aluminum gained $3.50. In Toronto, the TSX gained almost 112 points. The Venture Index fell 0.5 point. In New York, the Nasdaq was up almost 184 points, and the Dow Jones gained almost 375 points. It was a thrilling NBA Finals Sunday night in the winner-take-all Game 7. CTV's Camille Carmali reports.
Alexander didn't slow down. A thrilling NBA Finals. One game for all the marbles. That went the distance. But the story of some of these big-time ballers began far from the big arena lights. Here in small-town Ontario, at community courts and school gyms is where it all started for Andrew Nemhard. His former coach, Gus Gymnopoulos, now watching him in the finals.
He's like family to us, so it's a proud moment.
Nemhard, one of 4 Canadians in this year's finals, tying a record set last year. On the Oklahoma City Thunder, league MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Hamilton, Ontario, Luguentz Dort from Montreal. On the Indiana Pacers, Andrew Nemhard from Aurora, north of Toronto, and Benedict Mathurin, also from Montreal. Dwayne Washington coached both Gilgeous-Alexander and Nemhard, signaling a major shift in Canadian basketball talent.
The players are better because the training has gotten better. Coaches and developers has taken their craft a little more seriously.
And that's because the developmental program has also gotten better. Government funding has increased, paying for better coaches, better courts, kids now playing at an earlier age.
Club basketball exploded, and so you've got tons of clubs all over the place. Kids have places to play. The barriers to entry are low.
And that's created better local competition, with young American athletes now coming up north.
Not only U.S. athletes, we're talking athletes from all over the world coming into our school programs because they understand, hey, there's something good happening in Canada.
Part of the rise in talent is also cultural. When the Toronto Raptors started the franchise in the 90s, it got more kids playing. Now those kids are all grown up.
And if you look at all the NBA guys, like they're kind of at that age right now where they would have been impacted by that.
Knowing a new generation of basketball fans are watching these finals now, imagining they'll be the next Canadians crowned NBA champions. Kamel Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
The stars aligned for a mother-daughter duo to complete a monumental accomplishment together. CTV's John Venevalley Rao has the details.
We are lawyers. You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. Cool. High five. High five.
To meet this mother-daughter duo was not only joyful, but truly inspirational.
We are both each other's cheerleaders. We're kind of like a mutual admiration society.
A pair of legal beagles happy to show how they hugged moments after making history. Both mom and daughter called to the bar in Ontario, becoming lawyers at the very same ceremony.
It's exciting to be able to celebrate it, but to be able to do it alongside my mother. My mother's my best friend. She's my biggest supporter. She's the reason that I did this in the first place. And so to be able to go through it with her and experience the same emotions together with it, it's unique. It's one of a kind. It's very surreal.
Megan's mom, Lori, had been a teacher for much of her career and homeschooled Megan, who 5 years ago got accepted into law school. At the time, Mom mentioned how she wished she too had studied law.
And I said, what's stopping you from doing it?
At first, Mom, then in her 50s, thought it would be too tough to get in, but decided to give it a try and got accepted.
We both cried together because she remembered how thrilling it was when she got accepted to law school. So that was really neat.
They were a year apart and went to different universities, but would help each other out.
Did you compare notes? Did you?
Yeah, she sent me her notes all the time.
And at this ceremony this week, both officially became lawyers.
Lori Lynn Butler.
Mom crossing the stage first, and then Megan.
It's incredible. I meet so many people who tell me, like people my age, who tell me that their parent wished that they could have gone to law school or had talked about it and had an interest in it. And it's exciting to say to them, your parent could do it. My parent did. My mom did it. My mom will be the one to tell your mom that she should go to law school. So it's very exciting to be able to tell people that.
Mom says she's humbled when she hears she's an inspiration as she steps into her legal career next to her daughter. John Venevalley Rao, CTV News, London, Ontario.
That's our news for now. For more local news, visit us at cftktv.com. All of our newscasts also go up on our YouTube page. Thanks for watching.